Well, say, how are you all this day of your time as you create time to exist? Let's get serious. S-I-R-I-U-S. That may be your entitlement tonight if you wish. Let's get serious. The idea being, on behalf of a request made last week of your time to discuss the third part of the triad of your world, our world, and the world that orbits the star you call Sirius, to illuminate some of the idea of the energy of the beings that exist in that particular stellar system of awareness. We have discussed from time to time with you the idea that there are different levels of consciousness, as you call it, some of which in your terminology exist in physiological manner, some of which exist in non-physiological manner, more in what you would call etheric states of dimensionality, energy states of consciousness. The idea of the triad of energy represented by your planet of Earth, our planet of Ethethani, and the civilization round Sirius we have labeled Siskine, will be representative of the body, mind, and spirit of an overall consciousness that together our three civilizations form. Not that you do not belong, not that we do not belong to other triads, other patterns, other interactive levels of consciousness as well. But this one particular triad has a lot to do with the definitions of the route, shall we say, that you are taking in your upward spiral, in your ascension, in your acceleration of awareness within yourself. It is, to some degree, more directly representative of manifestations reflected back to you of your own higher consciousness in many ways. Even though they are beings unto themselves, there is an affinity, a connection, a link between the energy of the star system Sirius and your own Earth in many different ways. Now, Sirius civilizations have contacted your planetary civilizations for quite some time, thousands of your years as you count time. But something that we have not completely discussed before in specific detail is that they have interacted with your civilization from many different levels. For they have had, in what you call the past, a more physiological counterpart that to some degree, not only telepathically, but in your terminology, somewhat physiologically interacted with some of you from time to time in your past civilizations, your past cultures upon your planet. Now, we have at one time described as your world is, in your terms, third planet from your sun, and our world, Ethethani, is third planet from our sun. We have also to some degree said that the planet, the world, that is represented by the Sirius consciousness is also third, in a sense, from the sun. But not third in the same way, not spatially, dimensionally. For there are three levels of the civilization of Sirius. One that you would call fourth density, one that you would call fifth density, and the one to some degree you may be most familiar with through these interactions, the sixth density level, that is called Siskine, where they are totally non-physical, as you would understand physicality, and exist more or less in what you would call an energy state, an energy sea. Now, their ancient fourth density representative selves, to some degree, were, as many of your ancient cultures perceived them, amphibious, but not exactly to the degree that they were described in some of what you call your ancient American Indian, your ancient African, and your ancient Sumerian lore. They were not, in your terms, literally half fish, as has been described in some of the deifications that your planet has created of them to represent them by. But they were understood to some degree to be of somewhat amphibious nature in that sense. And that is why Among many other reasons, there is such a strong state of identification between the Sirius civilization and the civilization on your planet you call the dolphins and the whales, and why they have been in telepathic communication for many thousands of your years. They are similar in energy format in many ways, and while the physiological configuration of the old fourth density Sirius civilization was not like your dolphin and whale civilization, their energy was sufficient to cause what you would call a camaraderie, an empathy, an identification to take place. And so their communications have been ongoing for quite some time, even while the land human civilization on your planet has been waking up from its deep sleep of forgetfulness. Now, some of those interactions that took place here and there, to some degree, are responsible for some of the representations of cultural, religious, political, economic ideas that manifested and blossomed upon your planet. We do not wish to impart the idea or impression that extraterrestrials are completely responsible for the entire idea of your cultural phenomena, sociological phenomena. No, but some interaction has taken place and has created, in your terminology, changes in the course of how you saw events as a society. Because none of you are original to your planet anyway, many of you have, all of you have connections of a sort to other dimensions, other levels of existence. And some of these were simply established from time to time in various modalities. But as the Sirius civilization progressed and accelerated, in your terms, evolution took place. They transformed from the physical fourth density state into a more quasi-physical, non-physical fifth density state, and then into a completely non-physical sixth density state. But to some degree, because all realities exist in a sense at the same time, all interactions on all levels are still taking place, especially because in your civilization you are still awakening out of third density into your own fourth density manifestation. Now, the Sirius civilization does represent to some degree our own higher consciousness. They are representative of the evolution my civilization is most directly headed for as we move into the idea of fifth density from our fourth density existence, the last stage of physicality. As you are moving into that last stage of fourth density physicality, and eventually will, in a sense, take our place in the triad, we will take their place in the triad, they will move on to another idea altogether, and then another member, another civilization will then, in your terms, fill your, as you say, shoes in the triad. Now, we have said that most likely, not definite, but most likely this will be a civilization within the star grouping you call Barnard star cluster. They are approximately, this civilization, now at a point equivalent to what you would call your Renaissance in historical terms. Now, the Sirius civilization is much again in an energy sea. They are in a state of complete consciousness. If you wish any kind of a representation of their world as such, you can perhaps give this physiological analogy. Imagine a ball of clear light, clear energy on the surface. And as you sink slowly into it, it becomes white energy. And the more you go toward the center, it then condenses and collapses into what you would call a bright electric blue electromagnetic energy. And at the very center is what you would typically call a black hole gate. Now, this idea of their existence, existing as energy forms in an energy sea, allows them to either project themselves telepathically as individuals or as one homogeneous energy, one homogeneous consciousness. And to some degree, it can be said, technically speaking, that they do this projection and communication with other civilizations through that black hole gate at the very center of their world. It is an interdimensional gate that links to all levels, all dimensions, and through which they can communicate in either direction with any level, any dimension. This idea now has allowed them, this gate now has allowed them to, as you say, step up. Their ability to communicate with many of you, now that you as a civilization have stepped up, your ability to receive the idea of what you would call higher frequencies, higher vibrations. May I take a moment to remind you once again, biological life is the most efficient transmitter and receiver. So, recognize that as each and every one of you, in your own way, in your own time, decide to open yourself up to more expressiveness of the consciousness that you are, more recognition and expressiveness of the frequency that you are, you will become more sensitized to the frequency they are always bathing, beaming your world in. Because they are always sending an unbroken radiation of unconditional love and energy, thought forms, thought patterns, for you to tap into in that sense. Now, approximately in your terms of physical counting, that star, their star you call Sirius, is within what you would call 10 approximately of your light years. In your terminology, in your physical dimension, it takes 10 of your years, 10 of your orbits, for a beam of light to reach from your star to their star, from their star to your star. But understand that the telepathic link is instantaneous, that what you call the black hole gate circumvents physiological space, connects all dimensions in the immediate here and now, and through that gate, it is as if they literally overlap you. Literally overlap you, are intertwined with you, even in much the same way that we are, and all civilizations and all dimensions are intertwined holographically with each other. Each and every one of you, and each and every being, has that same central gate, that same central black hole, in a sense, through which you can receive and send any idea, any information, can create any interaction. And so, you can always be aware when you are in a very energized and balanced and relaxed and ecstatic state. Be aware of all the frequencies, all the spectrum of energy and information that is always available for any of you to ride the crest of that wave, always. Identification with their very high energy can assist in your acceleration, but it is not that they are doing it for you. You must meet them halfway. In a sense, that is where we come in, for we are to some degree representative of the halfway vibration between you and them. We are the band, in a sense, of mentality, of electromagnetic energy, of consciousness that represents what you are to some degree becoming, what you are headed for in your civilization. We are, in that sense, by allowing identification to take place between our civilizations, reflecting to you your own self-chosen future, in a sense. Not that it will be specifically as we have chosen to express our civilization. You will create your own version of it, but the energy, the patterns, the identification will be very similar. And then, once again, as you then move to the stars, open to the stars, you will literally be flowing, sliding on starlight, using light itself for all that you need, all your power, all your understanding, recognizing that light is the matrix in which all information that you need is intertwined and interlocked. And when you open that light by shining as a brilliant star yourself, you will then match the frequency of all of creation's light and know everything you need to know right now, as you are. You are made of light. So when you lighten up and don't be so serious, then you too will reflect the serious nature of their consciousness. and your own higher selves and fuller selves. We thank you for having such a interesting language to play around with. There will be more in what you would call the near future of communication directly from Sirius energy, as there has been from time to time in your past, through these interactions. But as changes occur and expansions occur, also accordingly will its energy reflect those changes and expansions. Now, one moment. You have heard us discuss many times the idea that the transformations you go through in no way, shape, or form need to be, in your terms, catastrophic. And that the things that you fear, in that sense, generally will attract you into negative circumstances, because fear is of a like vibration to negativity. And you know we have discussed that you always have an opportunity to transform anything in a positive way, and in your terms, to alleviate and relieve a lot of the negative pressure, so that even though things may be felt towards what you might call even a negative direction, they do not have to be felt in as strong a manner as perhaps it would have been had you been completely locked in the idea of negative perception and fear. And so therefore understand that what we are about to say, in no way, shape, or form, for those that are familiar with us, is meant to project into you the idea in any way of unsettling natures. But we would, in this sense, simply allow you to know, and in no way, shape, or form is this an absolute, but there is, in our perception, a likelihood, depends on you, a likelihood that within what you call the next week of your time, there may be a little shaking going on. But relax. Relax. At this timing, allow us once again to extend to you our deepest appreciation in allowing our civilizations to interact with your civilizations. That is human citation, for you are two alien species upon your planet Earth. We thank you for allowing our association to interact with your association, so that together we may become one association of love and light and joy. In return for the gift of your willingness to co-create these sharings now, this day of your time, I will ask you, how may I serve you?